If you're in your early 20s and it feels like everyone around you is getting rich except for you, this video is gonna completely reframe the way that you see your entire situation. Because here's what's happening. You're watching another 22-year-old post about their six-figure month, another guy your age buying his dream car, and another person talking about how they figured it all out. And you're sitting there wondering, what am I doing wrong? Now, before you click off of this, thinking that this is gonna be just another feel-good motivation video where I'm gonna tell you to be patient, that's not what this is. This is about breaking down the toxic narratives that are actually keeping you stuck. The stories that you're telling yourself that you feel like they're true, but they really aren't. I'm Jackson, and I've watched hundreds of young guys get trapped in the exact same mental loop. Some break through and they completely transform their lives, while others stay stuck in comparison mode until they're 30 and nothing changes. So in this video, I'm gonna be breaking down the 3 biggest toxic narratives about timing, and more importantly, I'm gonna give you the logical reframes that you can use to overcome them. Because once you understand what's really going on, you're gonna realize that you're exactly where you need to be, and you're gonna start taking action instead of staying paralyzed. All right, so let's get into it. Now, before we go into these 3 narratives, let me explain what I mean when I talk about the toxic narratives around timing. These are stories that we tell ourselves in our own heads that prevent us from taking action. Things like, I'm too late, or I should be further along, or God forgot about me. The reason this is so important is because success isn't actually about where you start. It's about whether you can get out of your own head long enough so that you can move forward. And most people in their early 20s, the thing holding them back isn't the lack of opportunity, but it's the fact that these narratives are running on repeat. I know this because I've struggled with every single one of these. And I'm gonna break down the logic for how you can overcome them so that you can start taking action today instead of staying stuck in your own head. All right, so the first toxic narrative is thinking, I'm too late and everybody else is ahead of me. This is a comparison trap. And this is probably the most common one I see in guys my age, because in this case, you're looking at everybody else who's around you and they're already winning. You see the results, their lifestyle, their freedom, and you tell yourself that because they started before you, you missed the wave and that you're never gonna catch up. But in reality, you're comparing your behind the scenes to everybody else's highlight reel. You're in chapter 1, comparing yourself to somebody else's chapter 15. So let me give you the logical reframe on this one. The market is so much bigger than you could ever realize that you could win as big as possible and still never even touch the full market. It's not that you're too late. Sure, yeah, you might be a little late, but the truth is that you're early. And early, late, super late, it doesn't matter because everybody can win. That's how massive this opportunity is. Think about it like this. There are millions of people right now. There are millions of people right now that could use exactly what you provide. Most of them have never even heard of the people that you think are ahead of you. So the person ahead of you isn't really taking your spot. There's room for everybody who's actually willing to do the work. And here's the other thing. The people ahead of you aren't really as far ahead of you as you think. It feels like they are, but once you get off the starting line, you realize they're much closer than it seems. And if they didn't overcome these same toxic narratives, they too probably would be stuck in their own head, which means there will be periods where you can catch them. The people who started 10 years ago, they built a cruise ship that's really difficult to turn and maneuver. But right now you're starting out, you have a speedboat that's agile and you can take advantage of new trends whenever they come up. All you have to do is get in the game, and I guarantee an opportunity is going to present itself. For instance, Moses was 80 years old when God called him to lead Israel out of Egypt. If Moses can start his life's mission at 80 years old, you can start building wealth at 20. You're not too late, you're just getting started. So the second toxic narrative is, I should be further along by now. This is super common. In this case, you've accepted that building wealth does take time, but you're frustrated because you thought that you'd be further along than you are right now. You're grinding, but the results aren't really showing up as fast as you expected, so you start spiraling and you start wondering if you're on the wrong path or maybe if there's something wrong with you. But in reality, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I know this sounds like a spiritual bypassing, but there's real logic to this that I want to break down for you. God prepares you before he promotes you. Every single biblical figure who accomplished anything significant had a waiting period where nothing seemed to be happening. Joseph was in prison for years before he became second in command of Egypt. And David was anointed king as a teenager, but he didn't actually become king until he was 30. That's over a decade of waiting. So why would God do that? Because the character needed to lead a nation isn't just built in a day. It's forged in the fire of waiting, and waiting when nobody's watching and nothing's happening. Joseph needed those years in prison to develop the wisdom and integrity to run Egypt. And David needed those years of running from Saul to develop a heart of a true king. If they had the position before they were actually built for it, they would have been destroyed. And they would have destroyed themselves and everybody depending on them. And the same thing is true for you right now. The character that you need to steward real wealth, handle real success, and to build something that lasts, that's not built overnight. It's built in the grind. It's built when you have to show up even when the results aren't there yet. And if you get the blessing before you're ready for it, the honest truth is you're gonna lose it. You're gonna fumble the freaking bag, okay? But to make this one really easy for you, fast money leaves fast, but built money stays. The guys who blow up overnight and make it big so quickly, they always crash. Think about the lottery winners who blow all their money because they never developed the character or the stewardship to have real wealth. They didn't build the discipline or the work ethic and the character that sustains long-term growth. So you're in the grind right now, but you're right where you're supposed to be, so feel like you're supposed to be. Just because you don't feel like you're not further along or you should be, that doesn't mean that this is a waste of time. This is the most valuable time right now because you're building the foundation that's actually gonna hold the weight of the blessing when it comes. All right, the third toxic trait, and this one's a big one. It's thinking, what if God forgot about me? This is where you've been faithful, you've been working hard, and you've been doing everything right, but it still feels like everybody else around you is getting blessed except for you. Your friends are winning, people you know who aren't even trying are winning, and people that are definitely not trying as hard as you are getting opportunities, and you start wondering, hey God, do you even see me? I'm down here, do you see me? This is probably the most dangerous toxic trait because it doesn't just keep you stuck, it makes you feel bitter, and bitterness will kill your future faster than anything else. So here is a logical reframe. God delays are not God denials. Just because it hasn't happened yet does not mean that it's not going to happen. And just because somebody else got their breakthrough doesn't mean that yours isn't coming. The truth is, God's timing is never late. God's timing always comes exactly when you're ready for it. Not when you think you're ready, but when you are actually ready. And the gap between those two things is usually a lot bigger than we like to realize. Here's what actually is happening when you feel forgotten. God is testing you. He's testing your faithfulness. Can you stay committed while you're still broke? Can you leap? Can you keep showing up when nobody's watching? And can you maintain character when the results definitely aren't there yet? Because that's what separates the people who build something real from the people who just wanted the Instagram version. When you do break through, and you will as long as you don't quit, the story of how you stayed faithful during that wait is gonna be the thing that inspires others. And sometimes God withholds the blessing just because he's protecting you from something that you can't see yet. And now that you know these three toxic narratives, here's what you need to do. You need to stop comparing yourself to everyone else and everybody else's timeline and start focusing on your next rep. What's one action that you can take today that actually moves you forward? Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Because the only way that you start to fall behind is if you stay stuck and you just stay in your head and you don't ever start moving. So put your head down, take action, and pop your head up in a month later and then look back and see how much progress you've made. Then put your head right back down and keep going. If you do that, I promise you, you're gonna look back in a year from now and realize that you were never behind. You were exactly where you needed to be. And with all that being said, I really do hope that you got some value out of this video. And guys, I will see you in the next one. God bless you.